Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Tubeless Creek Instagram live broadcast. I am Jason Haas. My guest this week is a real treat. It's one of my favorite producers in the world. It's Louis Barruol from Chateau de Saint Cosme in Gigondas in the Rhône Valley, who is amazingly farming a piece of land that has been in his family since 1590. So 18 generations later, I can't wait to talk to him. So, but while we wait for people to join, as I always do, I want to share a few pictures on what is going on here at the vineyard and the winery. So first, to give you a sense of what things look like out there. In terms of the vineyard itself, it is starting to get green. We had another nice little dose of rain last weekend. Cover crop is really popping. I feel like it's changing by the day. You can see in this picture, we are in between two blocks, one of which we have pruned on the right, one that we have not yet pruned on the left. So we are slowly working our way through the vineyard. It'll take us probably 3 months to get through the whole thing. We are pruning off canes, leaving them in the middle of the rows. They will decompose in place in the rows, help our microbial activity and fungal activity and fertilize the soils. We are also we're trying some different things with our cover crops. So we are tilling in many blocks every other row. So this is an example of our home vineyard where the Haas vineyard, where we make our full circle Pinot Noir, where you can see on the right a row that we have not tilled, and on the left we have a row that we have and then seeded, and it seems to be a balance of leaving things undisturbed along with getting some of the population of the things that we want. Okay. In the cellar, we are working on blending the Patelin Rosé. So it's done with its primary fermentation. There is some secondary fermentation still to be done. You can see it's still cloudy, but it is so tasty, vibrant, and bright, delicious. It will go into bottle in a little more than a month. So we're getting it put together, and it's fun to get this first view on how it's going to be. We have also been, we did our last bottling of the year that included the Esprit Blanc and the Panoply. We have been waxing magnums. These are 2 of the 3 wines that we make magnums out of, which is really fun. What else are we working on? We've had some beautiful end of day kind of sunsets. This is a picture overlooking Scruffy Hill, and I'm going to choose a different photo, and you can see we have, hopefully it's not hidden by me, we have Venus shining up above Scruffy Hill. The planets on display have been really amazing over the last month or so. And then finally, last thing, just a quick alert. Anybody who is looking for Christmas gifts, you still got another day and a half. Things on the West Coast can get there using our regular shipping. We have special expedited shipping for an extra $10 that you can get any of our holiday packs sent to the East Coast or Midwest. They'll still get there in time for Christmas. Okay, that's it. I am going to stop sharing, and then I am going to see if I can get Louis to join me. I don't see him on yet, so I will we'll wait another moment or two. Let me see what else I can share in terms of pictures. Oh, okay. A couple of beauty shots. It is really a stunning time of year out here. It is. I think my blog this week is going to be why you should visit wine country in the winter. But it's a combination of the kind of softness of the light, the and a growing green of the hillsides, the clouds that give you this depth of field in the vistas that's really, really gorgeous. Share a couple more pictures. One of our big oak trees in the middle of the vineyard. It's really, for me, it's my favorite time of year. It's generally warm enough to want to be outside in the middle of the day, 60s and low 70s even later this week. Chilly at night. Just a lovely, lovely time of year. This is a picture looking towards a Grenache Blanc block over one of our dry laid stone walls. That I think is so stunning. One more shot. And this is one just because I always like the excuse to get a picture of Sadie in there. This is in that same Grenache Blanc block that you saw from a distance at the very western edge of the property. And one of the things you'll notice, we have a little bit of growth at the tips of some of the canes. That is because on our hillside blocks, our high blocks, it's not dropped far enough below freezing to fully defoliate the vines. So in between the rainy bits, the rainy weather that we've been getting, we have been getting some cold nights. All of the low areas are totally defoliated, and some of the less vigorous blocks, less vigorous varieties are defoliated. But we still have things in Grenache Blanc and a little bit in Vermentino, a little bit in Syrah, some of the hillside blocks that still have little leaves, tufts of leaves at the tip. Okay, I'm going to try one more time, see if I can get... see if I can get Louis to join. I sent through an invitation. For some reason, it's not pulling it up. Okay. Okay. Well, we may have to put this on hold and come back to it. I apologize if you have been tuning in, looking forward to a conversation with Louis. We will do it for sure. But he is not on this right now, I will sign off here, I believe, and will start it up again if I can get into contact, and we'll do it again in a little bit. So that's what I have for you. Again, I'm sorry that... Oh, wait, there it is. Okay, I see that I have Chateau de Saint Cosme joined. I am going to invite Louis to have a conversation now. Sending the invite through. I just sent the invite through, and hopefully this will work as straightforwardly as it did last time when we did the test yesterday. Hello, Louis.
Hello, Jason.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Sorry, I thought I hadn't realized it would be on Tabla's count, so it's why I'm a little late.
It is
Sorry
not a
about
worry at all. It gave me a chance to share a few extra pictures of what's going on in the vineyard, and since I think this is maybe the most beautiful time of year in the vines, I don't think anybody was too upset by that. So thanks.
Okay.
So for the people who weren't here for the very beginning, my guest is Louis Barruol, who I believe, are you the 18th generation
Yep.
proprietor in Chateau de Saint Cosme in Gigondas? So I mentioned 18 generations. That's, I believe, 1590.
That's 1490.
1490. What do you know about your family back in that era?
Everything. We have documents about everything. Every piece of land we took control of. Every marriage, every death, every problems in courts. Everything. It's a massive amount of information on 5 centuries.
Amazing. And what was your family's origin back then? How did they come to the land that you're on now?
My family comes from Italy, like many families from Provence. I mean, I think there is not a single Provençal who hasn't some Italian blood in his veins. So our family was fully Italian in Piemonte in the 14th century, and they established in Provence in the end of the 15th century and bought this place Saint Cosme, which was a Roman villa in a ruin. It was a ruin of a Roman villa, and they bought that, built a farm on the substructions of the Roman ruins, and then developed everything from there.
And am I right that you still have some of those Roman ruins as a part of your cellar?
Yeah, there's a lot of remainings, including 4 vats which are in a perfect state. Many others are partially broken, but yes, it's a very historical cellar, um, one of the oldest in the country,
Yeah.
really.
And so did you always know that you wanted to be the next generation of the family to be working at Sancom?
Yeah, yeah, I decided that when I was 16.
Was it an easy decision for you, or was it
Well, I think my mother managed very well. Um, I think she treated me in a way I was going to make this decision. She was quite smart. Yeah, but the main thing is that when I made this decision, I had no idea about what it was going to be.
can you talk a little bit about what the situation of the estate was when you took over from your father? I believe this was in the early 1990s.
Yeah, I took over the place in 1992. I was 23 then, and before that, my father took over this place in 1957, and for many decades he replanted, he developed a great winemaking. He did extremely well, but in these times, most people would sell in bulk, and it was the practice, and very few people would do their own bottlings in Gigondas. So my father was not a merchant; he was not a businessman at all. He was a great farmer, a great scientist. So the economical side of the estate, he was not really interested in. So the wines were beautiful, but we would sell in bulk to Mr. Giga or Burgundian merchants or négociants in Châteauneuf most of the time.
And so when you took over, I mean, was the financial situation of the estate difficult?
Yeah, it was very bad. We were almost losing money. We were in a big crisis. I mean, all of you need to remember that in 1991 there was the war in the Gulf. Okay, and then when there is a war, there is an economical crisis always. And there was a global economical crisis from 1991 to 1995, 96. And then the interest of the Rhone exploded with the vintage 98. So we had 5 or 6 struggling years. We did well. We worked hard, and I think we did what we could and what we had to do. But yes, the start was very tough. And 92 was a horrendous vintage. 93 was difficult. 94 was not nice at all. 95 was great. 96 was bad. 97 was average. So out of 6 vintages,
Right.
you have just one which is very good. So that's the start.
Welcome to the business.
Yeah, exactly.
So can you can you talk about what you find special about Gigondas to people who maybe don't know it all that well? I mean, people know it as a good region in the Rhone, I think, in America, but I in many cases I doubt they know a lot of the specifics. What do you think is so special about it?
Yeah, it's a bit, Gigondas is a bit of an alien in the Southern Rhône because of its elevation, because of the enormous proportion of limestone in the soils, because of the northwest exposure, which makes it a late ripening terroir. We don't have the sun of the morning, we have the sunset light. And all of these conditions make make this place very, very different from its neighbors. When you taste old wines from some estates, it's gonna look like it can look like old Moret Saint-Denis. It can be very confusing in a blind tasting because of the level of freshness. Um, if you talk geology and climate, we have nothing in common with Chateauneuf. Like nothing. We have the Grenache in common. Yes, but that's all.
And so I mean, my sense, at least in the United States, is that the profile of Gigondas has become a lot higher in the last decade or so. But when you started, did people know Gigondas outside of the local region in the 90s?
There was there was there was the not a small notoriety in the UK. It was the notoriety was good in France. Um, it was okay in Belgium. It was relatively small in the US. Um, it was okay, but it was not very good.
And have you felt like a part of your a part of your plan for helping Saint-Cosme thrive has been to raise the profile of Gigondas alongside your own estate?
Well, probably, but you know, an appellation raise is a mix of many factors,
Yeah.
and it's the action of all the good estates. This is the actions of the winemakers union. This is how serious you are about doing things, about quality. So it's never one. It's never one guy. Absolutely never. But yeah, let's say we are definitely part of the people who helped. Yes.
And I know obviously Gigondas is best known for its red wines and mostly Grenache. It's mostly Grenache red wines, but I believe you've been pretty important in the recent recognition of a new Blanc
Yeah.
Gigondas appellation. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, it's there was a really old tradition of Clairette in Gigondas, and a few growers were doing it for more than 100 years old, and it makes a lot of sense because it's late ripening, it's a lot of limestone, so that's a great idea for white wines. Yes, Gigondas is the home of Clairette, really. The problem is in 1971, when Gigondas became a cru, the INAO, which is the French organization for appellation management, they refused us the right to call some white wines
Huh.
Gigondas. And as people were very eager to get the cru done, they accepted that. They said, well, okay, it makes no sense, but we will do red and rosé and no white. So many growers pulled out the white vineyards because they couldn't be a cru anymore. And a few of them didn't and kept making these wines under the Côte du Rhône label, and we are one of them. There is the biggest would be Amadieu, yes, who had planted a lot of white, and they kept their whites. And in 2011, I had a first conversation with the president of INAO saying, we want Gigondas to be a white again. And he said, this is too small. You will never get there. But, you know, we are a bit stubborn. So we got this right in 23. So that's 12 years later.
And
That's the
what are
joy.
the
That's the joy of French administration.
Well, it's honestly not all that different here. I think we submitted the proposal to create 11 sub appellations within Paso Robles in 2006, and we got approval in 2013. So it took us 7 years also. So
Okay,
governments just work slowly.
I don't feel lonely then.
Can you talk about the rules for the Gigondas Blanc appellation? I mean, it has to be majority Clairette, yes?
Yeah, it's very simple. The vineyard and the wine has to be minimum 70% Clairette, up to 100%. So you can do a pure Clairette. This is what I do. I think this is what should be done. But we allowed all the acidic grapes, such as Picpoul, Bourboulenc, Uni Blanc, and among others, to be part of the regulations because of global warming. Because one day we might need those, especially Picpoul, which I think is a great grape for hot and dry climates. So this is a freedom we gave ourselves by anticipation. But our DNA is clearly to make pure Clairette wines for most of the growers. Some growers have already developed blends with a bit of other things than Clairette, but most wines would be pure Clairette.
Cool. And I agree 100% with your description of Picpoul. We have found it to be tremendous here in Paso Robles.
Yeah.
So changing gears a little bit, I understand that it was your father who changed the viticulture to organic at Saint Cosme in the 1970s. Can you talk a little bit about that decision?
It didn't. It was not a conversion. It didn't change it. The exact story is that we were in this traditional clean agriculture, and then all the pesticides arrived in the beginning of the 70s in our region, and my father tried, because at the time there was no concept of organic agriculture. There was no business for that. There was no. It was not a concept. I mean, remember that chemicals, pesticides, nitrogen, all of this, potassium, was seen as a progress.
Yeah,
It
modern.
was not
How
seen
to be modern.
at the time in the context. It was not seen as something dirty. It was seen as a progress, and suddenly the growers thought, "Oh my God, all this grass! I am fighting against it all the spring, etc. I'm going to have these magical herbicides to get rid of this." And it was so my father tried, and it was and it generated a lot of problems. I give you just a quick example, which is the main reason why he went back to clean agriculture in 1974 after 3 years of use of chemicals. He began to use pesticides against the worms which eat the grapes. That's springtime. The worms make a butterfly. The butterfly make a worms,
Right.
eat the grapes, and you can have 5 or 6 generation in 3 months.
Oof.
So it can be bad. But when you have a lot of birds and a lot of woods around, they act as predators, and this is a natural regulation of the worms. If there are a lot of worms, the birds are gonna eat them more.
Yep.
If there is less, it's
The
an
balance.
equilibrium.
Yep.
And year one, my father sprays against the worms, and he has maybe a crop which is 10% bigger because, yeah, you save some grapes. But year two, he has more worms. So the product guy tells him, Mr. Barruol, you have to spray more. So he
Right.
sprays more, has a good crop. Year three, even more worms. And then he couldn't understand. And he investigated, and he figured out that the mothers birds take the worms, give them to the babies in the nest. As the worms are full of chemicals, some of the birds die in the nest. They can't survive well. This is less adults the next year,
Yep.
so less predation, produces more worms. So this generates more spraying.
Right.
So more spraying generates less birds.
Yep.
Less birds generate more worms, and this is how you go to
Yeah.
hell. And he figured out that it was working this way, and it was the end of the chemicals at Saint Cosme. So basically, this estate was under chemical agriculture for 3 years in all, 50 years ago.
Yeah.
That's it. So he came back to plowing, déchaussage, décavaillonnage, and leave the birds deal with the worms. And this is still what we do. We still do that. I mean, we might lose 5 or 10% of crop, but what's the value of 5 or 10% of crops you lose because of the worms versus do a clean agriculture in a clean environment with diversity? It's I don't hesitate.
No, and I think the way that you explained it makes a lot of sense to people because they understand that like you need a certain amount of the what people think of as pests, as the things that you don't want, because you need to have the food source for the natural predators for those things. And it's what you just need to do is um, maintain the balance so that no population
Yeah,
grows out of control.
yeah. The problem is those products, they act like an addiction because when you're used to potassium, nitrogen, pesticides, yes, you're going to produce more grapes. That's that's true. And when you're used to have a lot, how do you go back? I mean, it's hard to accept you're going to lose a little bit of crop, you know. So they for me they act like a kind of an addiction to production and potential
Yeah,
money.
I think that's very well described. You mentioned earlier that you're thinking about the impacts of global warming on your choices in something as broad as the creation of the varieties for the Gigondas Blanc. I know, like the parents did, you have purchased some property in Vinsobres, up at the northern part of the Southern Rhône. Were you thinking of global warming in looking further north as well, or was it a separate motivation?
Yeah, it was part of the thinking. It was not the only reason, but yes, I would not invest in a place which is already a little hot. That would be a bad decision. So yes, it was one of the boxes that this property was ticking.
What else? What else? What else excites you about Vinsobres?
Oh, it was a major supplier of my Négoce wines, my Côte du Rhône Saint Cosme, And suddenly this fantastic property was for sale, and I decided to not leave it go.
Yeah.
So we went for it. It's but the main reason why we went for it, this is a real world-class terroir. If you talk terroir, if you love your job, if you don't buy a name but you buy a place, you go to Vinsobres. It's not a name yet, yes, but it is a world-class terroir.
No, it is a stunning,
Yeah.
stunning appellation.
Hmm.
Um,
Especially for the Syrah
yeah,
grape.
and that's I think one of the things that is interesting because it does have sort of a different profile. It's got a little bit of like 1 foot in the north and 1 foot in the south because there's a lot of Syrah there, more than there is in really the
Yeah,
rest of the Southern Rhône.
yeah, it's the north of the south.
Yeah. So you are also a partner in Forge Cellars in upstate New York. Can you talk about how that came about?
Yeah, I am a bit ADHD, so I had I had to do something else. No, it's we founded Forge in 2011 with my friend Rick Rainey, who was working at the time for my importer Winebow. And Rick is from the lakes. He was living in the lakes, and he was constantly pulling my arm to go and taste, and we began to make a little bit of wine to try our ideas, and it worked well. And as we are idiots, we decided to create a winery from scratch.
And not just a winery from scratch, but a winery focusing on very different grapes than you're known for in your home estate.
Yes, yes, but that this is what everybody says to me, and this is true. But remember, my DNA as a grower is that I have been learning my job in a very late ripening place where we deal with botrytis almost every year, where we deal with the rain during harvest, etc. So my experience of winemaking was not that far from what we get in the lakes. You might think I am crazy, but Saint Cosme in Gigondas is one of the latest place in what is the latest place of the Southern Rhône. So I was not surprised by the challenges proposed by this region when I began to work there. And I love so much bone dry Riesling. It is such a fantastic translator of a soil, a little bit like Grenache. So I didn't feel it was that different.
And you make Riesling, dry Riesling, and you make Pinot Noir as well, right?
Yeah, we made Pinot Noir right from the beginning. And then Rick had this idea to make Cabernet Franc as well,
Okay.
and I have to say it was a good idea. I was not in favor at the beginning, but the lakes, our area has a great potential for Cab Franc as well.
Excellent.
That would be the three grapes which really perform, and Chardonnay can be good as well.
Cool. So you're the 18th generation. Will there be a 19th generation of
Well,
family?
it's on its way because my son James, who is my eldest child, he's in both. He's both in wine and music. One day, if you like, he can do a performance in Tablas Creek for you. But no, James he has various degrees in politics and enology, and now he's working everywhere in England, in Bordeaux. He's going to Australia in January. So he's building his knowledge, he's building his experience. We don't want to be too fast. He needs to be himself and build his knowledge, and then he will join us at some point, I think.
I think that's so important. I know it's how the parents really think about incorporating the next generation. It's important that they go out and do other things and bring experiences back so that you have always new ideas coming and that people come when they're ready and when the business is ready for them.
Yeah, and you know, the respect is not something you can buy. You get the respect of the other people. You have to gain it, and you gain it by who you are and your competencies and your personality. So, being the son of the boss is not a guarantee, you know, at all. So, yeah.
Cool. Well, I cannot believe that it has been a half an hour, but it has been a half an hour, and I do try to keep these conversations to a half hour out of respect to my guests and to our listeners. But I could talk to you all afternoon,
I
and it really been such a pleasure.
I could. I mean, thank you for your good questions. It makes the conversation so easy, I have to say.
Good. So people who want to know more about Saint Cosme or about Forge Cellars or anything else that you're doing, what's the best way for them to learn more?
Well, they go to our internet sites. Yeah, the Saint Cosme site is has been made in the 18th century, so don't be shocked if it looks very old. The Forge site is very good. And the Forge social media is good as well. But yeah, you go to our site or you send us an email, and we can send plenty of information. We are not good at communicating, but we are good at providing service. So customers and people are at the center of what we do. So we are available to give everything needed.
Amazing. Well, such a pleasure. Thank you, Louis. Thank you for the wonderful wines that you have made that I've enjoyed over many years. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to our paths crossing in person soon.
Great. Thank you, Jason. It was a true pleasure. And I might very well visit you in Tablas Creek next year in California, because I have never come to Tablas. So I can't wait.
Excellent. I can't wait either. Okay.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, Louis. Thank
Thanks.
you, everyone who joined us to watch. This is my last Instagram live broadcast of the year. We'll start back up again in January. My first guest in January will be the really legendary sommelier and wine author Kevin Zraly from the Windows on the World. And I look forward to seeing you then. So have a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Holidays, and I'll see you all in 2025.
Bye.
Bye.